The Florida Department of Transportation is an executive agency, which means it reports directly to the Governor of Florida. FDOT's primary statutory responsibility is to coordinate the planning and development of a safe, viable, and balanced state transportation system serving all regions of the state and to assure the compatibility of all components, including multimodal facilities. Coming up on Polk Place, we'll discuss their latest program. Welcome to Polk Place. I'm your host, Jeremy Moretti, and with me in the studio is Zach Birch, who's the Communications Manager for FDOT's District 1 office.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming in. And you got a lot to talk about. I see a sign behind you and a little bit of stuff here, talking about CORES today, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's an exciting project that we're working on right now.
Pretty big project, too.
Yeah, pretty much throughout the whole district. District 1 is 12 counties. This corridor is looking at a potential new corridor through any of 9 of the 12. The only ones not included are Okeechobee, Sarasota, and Manatee.
Okay. Well, and when you talk about corridors, you're talking about new roadway coming through.
Right. So this is, last year the legislature created the CORES program, which is the multi-use corridors of regional economic significance, and put it under DOT. And basically what we're looking at is a potential new roadway or a potential expansion of existing roadways to connect Collier County to Polk County. And those are really sort of the parameters that we were given. Obviously there's a number of counties in between those two. But in this case, we're looking at that potential corridor and what ways we can connect it. And certainly the goals of the program are to revitalize some of our rural communities. We have 6 pretty rural communities and counties in our district. To revitalize them, to increase connectivity, and to bring economic benefits and improved infrastructure to those communities as well. And so this program is aimed at that, and we're really sort of in the early stages, but it's certainly an exciting project that we're looking at.
Well, sure, and I mean, looking at these early stages too, we've got so much growth that's projected. I know, not just for Polk County, but
sure, all
of the state with new folks moving in all the time.
Right. So, yeah. The state's economists now estimate about between 600 and 900 people every day moving to Florida. Obviously, that's statewide, but certainly, especially in some of our coastal communities and even some of our interior rural communities, you're seeing population changes, business and economic changes, and a need for increasing that connectivity and providing alternate routes through both north, south, and east-west. And so this corridor is one of 3 corridors that are in the CORES program. The other 2 are extending the Turnpike to the Suncoast Expressway, and then also extending the Suncoast Expressway up north to Georgia. And so this is one of 3. This is the only one that really affects this area and this district, and so that's why we're really focused on this one here. All
right, so kind of give us a picture of what this corridor would look like. Where is it going to run between?
Sure. So the direction that we were given by the legislature is to connect Collier to Polk counties, and so you've got Collier all the way in the south, obviously, with Naples, Immokalee, Marco Island, and Polk County up here, where you've got obviously Lakeland, Bartow, Winter Haven, and all the other cities in Polk County. 2 major corridors in those counties, obviously I-4, particularly in Polk County, I-75 that runs through Collier, both north-south and then east-west as you look at Alligator Alley to connect southwest Florida to South Florida. So connecting those 2 areas is an area of importance. Everyone knows the interstate is busier and busier every day, whether you're talking about I-4 or I-75.
And Tampa keeps creeping
and
further
as Tampa keeps
east.
growing towards Polk and towards Manatee, there's certainly a need for additional routes, but also we have a number of really great but smaller and in some places economically disadvantaged rural communities in our district. Hardy, Highlands, Glades, Hendry, DeSoto, and I think that's it. So okay. Yeah, we've got those communities. So bringing potential infrastructure benefits, whether it's a new roadway, improvements to an existing roadway, but also the possibility of bringing sewer and water, broadband, fiber optic connectivity to those communities where those simply just aren't options now. Mm-hmm. It's not that people aren't choosing to have them. They don't have a choice. There is no choice in many of those communities to have things that people in bigger communities take for granted, like city sewer and water or high-speed internet. And so the possibility of bringing those, which not only improves the quality of life for citizens, but it makes it more attractive option for businesses to relocate there or people to open their own businesses, even things like telecommuting. If you want to live in a rural community and work for a bigger company, but it's something you can do online, if you don't have access to one of those high-speed internet connections, you don't really have that option either. You're going to have to go to one of our coastal communities or to Polk County where you can get a better signal and do that. And then you're really not telecommuting at that point. You're just going to a satellite office. And so providing those options, those benefits is really going to be a game changer for a lot of those communities.
Now, connecting those two big areas right now, you know, you're taking I-4, picking up 75, going south.
Mm-hmm.
Having that direct link. Now, is this going to be something along the scale of what you would see with I-75 and the size of it, or is it more along like connecting existing roadways, maybe a Polk Parkway type of thing?
Well, yeah, so we haven't fully determined, we're still pretty early in the task force process. So we haven't fully determined what the road itself would look like. What we're looking at right now is, so we do know it will be a tolled facility along the lines of the Polk Parkway or the proposals that we saw for Central Polk Parkway or Alligator Alley. So it will be a tolled facility, and you could be looking at both a new roadway, something that cuts through an area that was not, didn't have any roadways through it currently. Could also be improvements to an existing roadway. For example, one of the things at our last task force meeting that got a lot of discussion was State Road 29 in Collier County. If you're talking about connecting Collier County to Polk County, you're largely talking about that eastern part of Collier County out by Immokalee. Well, State Road 29 runs north and south through Collier and then Hendry County. On both sides of State Road 29, throughout that whole corridor, is state and national parks. There really are not many opportunities for a new roadway down there. So what the department could potentially look at, and this is what a lot of the task force members were talking about, was what improvements can we make to State Road 29? So could you build a parallel facility where you have a tolled sort of expressway that doesn't stop at all the local streets while still leaving the existing pieces of State Road 29 as the local roadway? Similar to what we did in the First Coast Expressway in the northern part of the state, where you have this expressway flanked by the existing road. So you still have that free option, that local option, but you do have that more high-speed, limited access facility, kind of like what you see with Polk Parkway or I-4, where there's only determined exits at certain locations. And so you could see those co-location opportunities, and then it forks off and goes to a new roadway to connect to a different. So it's likely going to be a mixture of both. And at our last meeting, we kind of unveiled our first look at what would be our first glance of avoidance areas. So the areas that we were proposing to completely avoid. So up here in this area, it'd be the Lake Wales Ridge, obviously the lakes and springs, some of the other areas. Conservation lands that you have there. The Avon Park Air Force Base, because obviously we're not going to build a new road through there unless they ask for it. And Native American tribal lands, the reservations that you have in Okeechobee and Collier counties. And so there's a lot of areas, and then also state and national parks. So that's why a lot of that came to the forefront at the last meeting, because if you looked at Collier County, it looked like basically the whole thing was pink, which was the colors that were on the map, but you do have that existing facility. And so that was the first look. The task force members had a lot of great comments, a lot of good input.
You mentioned the task force several times. Tell me a little bit, how is that made up? And also, what's the public input, and how can people have their voices heard?
Right, so we're in the early stages of this whole process, and where we are right now is in the task force stage, which was set up by the legislature. And so this task force has 47 members made up of elected officials, state agencies, the state colleges, regional planning councils, environmental groups. There's a number of environmental groups that also serve on the task force as well. And Polk County has two specific representatives. So you've got Commissioner Rick Wilson is representing Polk County and the local governments, and Nat Birdsong, the Mayor Pro Tem of Winter Haven, is there to represent the Polk TPO. It's a really collaborative group. Like I said, it's a varied group of people, from elected officials to environmental groups and state agencies. And right now they're going through the process of developing these guiding principles that they want this corridor to potentially follow. So what do we want to avoid? What areas do we want to minimize impacts to? Where do we want to make enhancements to? Along the lines of State Road 29, like I said, is a corridor that runs through a lot of environmentally sensitive areas on either side of it. And what improvements, if we were going to make this new roadway alongside it, what improvements could we make to it? So one of the things that was brought up at the last meeting was raising sections of the road to increase flow. That when that road was built 80 years ago wasn't much of a consideration at the time. Mm-hmm. Adding additional wildlife crossings, that is one of the parks that's down there is Florida Panther National Refuge. Yep. And so making sure that we increase connectivity for them to be able to expand their habitat is certainly a critical feature for us as well. And so the task force is developing those principles, is further defining this avoidance area map, and making sure that representatives from all 9 counties and different groups have a say and have an input that will help us to go forward when we go to the PD&E study, and then ultimately, assuming that there's a project that goes forward, then ultimately the design and construction of the roadway.
Okay. What kind of timeline is that looking like?
So the task force process has to be done. We're required by statute to be done and have our final report submitted in October of this year. Mm-hmm. Construction is scheduled, if feasible, if the task force and the PD&E determines it, to begin by 2023, and substantially complete with construction by 2030. So it's a very aggressive timeline that was set by the legislature, and certainly we're going to do everything we can to comply with it and make sure that we follow through with what our obligations are in statute and with our partners from the local governments, state agencies, the legislature, and the governor as well.
Well, I know something like this, especially with a board of 47 people, there's going to be a whole lot of differing viewpoints, different interests that are out there, especially from the public. Is there a public input that folks can access either through website, direct meetings? How does that go about?
Yeah, thanks. There's a number of ways the public can do it. So at those task force meetings, there's a public comment portion as well. We also give written comment forms that you can submit at those meetings as well. So if you want to come to those meetings, it's certainly open to the public. We also have community open houses, which are a much less formal proceeding. It's you have all the same displays, all the same information, but without sort of the formality of the task force meetings. And the public can just come, talk to DOT staff and our assistants, and make sure that they get their questions answered, that they get clarification, and again, they can leave comments there. The website, floridamcores.com, has a comment form where people can leave comments, and then there's an email address that we give to anyone who would like to leave a comment. It's fdot.listens, L-I-S-T-E-N-S, at dot.state.fl.us, which is the same email that we all have to use for DOT.
Lots of dots in there. Yep.
But if you want to go to the website, certainly that's probably the easiest way to comment from home. Go to the website. There's a comment form. You can leave your comments in there.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for coming in and sharing this with us.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. Look forward to having you again.
Thanks.
The Florida Department of Transportation will host community open houses to share information about the Florida multi-use corridors of regional economic significance, better known as MCORES, task force for the Southwest Central Connector, extended from Collier County to Polk County. The purpose of the community open house venue provides an opportunity for the public to view information presented to date at the task force meetings for the Southwest Central Connector. Attendees will have the opportunity to view displays, hold one-on-one conversations with staff, and watch a presentation that will run for a continuous loop. For more information on public meetings, you can give them a call at 1-800-292-3368 or look them up on the web at www.floridamcores.com.